Hey guys, this is video 6.7. This is the last video of this unit. Kind of a quicker unit in terms of information, but very, very important and lots of practice. And this is where you're kind of putting all your rules together and over these last few worksheets really practicing. This is going to be the biggest practice you can do. So what I want to do and kind of give you to help you out is give you this review flowchart. We're going to kind of go through that now, and then you can start working on these two. Make sure before you take the unit summary quiz, which guys, this unit summary quiz is not going to be like the other ones in terms of like Regents multiple choice. It's going to be naming. I'm just going to give you a bunch of compounds to name, kind of going from the name to the formula and the formula to the name. So that's all it's going to be. All right. So take a couple of days to really practice this. Work with each other. If I'm not there, ask questions about each other. Hey, why did I get this one wrong? Why did I get that one wrong? You have answer keys that you can check. Use this flowchart. But again, you will not have this flowchart to use on your quiz. You will only have a reference table with the polyatomics and the periodic table, so make sure you're doing that. So start with the flowchart, kind of get your bearings straight, and then from there, really try to wean yourself off of that. But let's take a look at this here. So 3 different colors are what you're going to need. 3 different highlighters, I would encourage, or color pencil, I don't care. So when you have a problem, okay, specifically those last few pages that are mixed practice, where you have ionic and covalent with them, this is kind of the questions you want to ask yourself. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, does it start with an H? If it starts with an H, guys, it's going to be some type of acid. All right, and if you sees it, I would encourage you guys to start by going to, I think it's table K, looking at the common acids first. But I'm going to kind of briefly go over the naming rules for acids here, and we'll go into that more later on. But most of the acids you're going to see in this class will be right there in your reference table, so just look them up. Okay, so if it starts with an H, okay, the answer to that question is yes. Then you want to ask yourself, is it binary, meaning 2 elements? If it's binary, how those binary acids get their name that you have in, again, table K, is like this, okay? You're going to name it like an ionic compound. So something, for example, like HCl. So we would call this hydrogen chloride, okay? But instead of calling it hydrogen and chloride, we would call it hydro for the hydrogen. We take the root for chloride, which is chlor, and we put ic at the end. So this would be hydrochloric acid. That's all you're doing here. So if it's HI, it'd be hydroiodic. If it's HB, hydrobromic. Okay, that's if it's binary. Now, if it's not binary, okay, a little bit different. We're going to name it like the ionic compound as well, but we're going to completely drop the term hydrogen. Okay, and then the prefix ate becomes ic, and you put the term acid after it. The prefix ite, meaning you have a polyatomic ion here, guys. That's what that's referring to. You know, means you have a poly ion in there. Okay, so something like carbonate. Okay, so so something like HCO3, H2CO3. Again, these are all in your reference table, so you're probably not going to have to know how to do this, but for those of you who are curious and want to know, I'm giving you the rules here. So H2CO3, so it would be hydrogen carbonate. Well, we're going to drop the term hydrogen, so it's just carbonate. 8 becomes ic, so this would be carbonic acid. Notice, guys, the terms acid always end with that term acid. But again, you have a list of common acids. Bases are easy because it's something hydroxide. It's a metal with hydroxide. Acid's a little bit more challenging. We will talk again more about that later on when we do acid and base. So look through that. One way, guys, you can tell if it's an acid or not, it'll have the term AQ after it, meaning it's an aqueous solution. So that's how you'll know if it's an acid or not. I'm not going to be too critical and too harsh right now. We'll get into that stuff more as the year goes on. All right, so going back to that original question, does it start with an H? If the answer to that question is no, the next thing you want to ask yourself is, give me a second here, is does it have a metal and a nonmetal? So now, if it doesn't start with an H, you've got to distinguish, is it ionic or is it covalent? Okay, that's basically the next thing you've got to look at. If the answer to that question is yes, meaning it's an ionic compound, all right, that means, hey, it must be ionic, so you're going to follow your ionic naming rules. So think to yourself, is there cation that's in group 1 or 2, or aluminum, zinc, or silver are going to be the common ones. Basically, guys, is it a type 1, where you just say the name and then the cation, or excuse me, the anion name? Okay, that's what that kind of part is, kind of distinguishing. Okay, is there a transition metal or is there not? If there's a transition metal, guys, you got to remember, hey, I got to know what the charge is. I've got to calculate that charge, and I've got to put it in there. Remember, when you calculate the charge for the transition metal, you're always going to know the anion's charge, so you can kind of go through and do a little bit of math to see how would I get that balanced out with my transition metal charge. It's something I can help you in person and give you some extra practice to kind of help you with that. So just ask me, and if I'm not there, shoot me an email and I can help you with that as well. So going back to that second question, does it have a metal and a nonmetal, where you're distinguishing is it ionic or covalent? If it's no, you're going to use your covalent rules, okay, where you're going to name it like a molecular compound using your prefixes. All right, but these are the questions you've got to ask yourself. You've got to distinguish, is it an acid or is it an acid, which means that it starts with an H. So if it starts with an H, you know it's an acid. If not, then you've just got to identify, is it molecular or is it ionic, and go through those rules. So really go through and take your time practicing the last couple of pages 17 and 18. One, you're going from names to formulas, so using the crisscross method, or if it's a molecular compound and they give you prefixes, super easy, you just go with those prefixes. Or if it's, and then the other page, page 18, you're going from the formula to the names. Typically, what I find with students is they can go from a name to a formula much easier than going from the formula to the name. So, or I'm sorry, vice versa. I don't know. You'll find out what works for you and what you struggle with. Get the help, ask questions of me, ask questions of your classmates, and really take that time to practice, guys, because this is a skill you have to have the rest of the year. You cannot do well in this class without being able to name compounds. So until next time, I will see you guys later.